The John Sterling Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Our first guest. You know how on all these shows, everyone's always a good friend. Where is a good friend? Well, here is a guy who really, really is a good friend. He's Anthony McCarron of your favorite newspaper and SNY on TV. And Anthony, hello. How are you?
I'm good, John. How you doing?
Yeah, I guess you are, friend. We had a great dinner Thursday night.
Yes, we did. Delicious.
Boy, was that food good or what? And
man.
And I had
a little full.
I had some of it last night too. It was just as good. Well, Anthony, meanwhile, your Mets are doing extremely well. They won 4 in a row. They seem to score right away. I think they have a really good team. I mentioned that night at dinner, the only problem they have is they don't hit with men on base a lot, but they do put a lot of people on base. But now they've won 4 in a row, so you know what? I guess they're hitting with men on base. Yeah,
John, they traffic, and that's got to be a good thing. I mean, they do have a bunch of talented hitters in that lineup. I would say that I agree with you. This has sort of hamstrung the Met offense into not being as good as it maybe could be. But Friday night against the Giants, I thought they had a really nice game in terms of doing a lot of different things on offense, getting some productive outs in the first inning against Logan Webb, who's always been really tough against them, and he's one of the best pitchers in the league, obviously. And then they get a laser from Lindor, and they stole some bases, and that seemed to bother Webb as well. So they sort of flashed the full potential and growth of their offense there. You just need to see it a little bit more from them. They've got to hit with men on, and if they ever do, then they could become something really special.
If they hit with men on base, they could be the best team in baseball. I know the Dodgers are very good and will be better if they get some of their pitchers back. But now the Mets got something they needed, and they got a really good one in Gregory Soto. Did you like that move?
I did, and it was necessary. The first thing that comes to my mind is, though, that as good as this is, they need more in the bullpen, and I think they need an additional arm, an additional, like a real high leverage setup guy to get to help them get to Edwin Diaz. But Soto is a good start. They've had trouble getting lefties in the bullpen. Brooks Raley is back, and he's a good one. He's back from Tommy John, but they've lost other guys to injuries, and I think adding Soto as a second lefty was necessary. I mean, he murders left-handed hitters, and if the Mets get to where they want to get to, which is competing at the end of the season for the NL East title with the Phillies, well, Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, meet Gregory Soto because he's going to be coming out of the bullpen. And then if, they go deep into October, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Kyle Tucker, PCA in Chicago, those are the kind of guys that Soto could face in big situations in October. If you're dreaming big, John, and I always am. And he's got a mastery of lefties. The Mets put out a great stat in their release about him. In the last 23 times he's faced a lefty, they're 0 for 23 with 14 strikeouts.
Well, I mentioned on the air one thing: he really throws hard, and if he throws strikes, I think he's a heck of a pitcher. So, I think I've said this on the air. The Yankees also desperately need another left-hander in the bullpen. That is one thing. You read about all the teams that need bullpen. Well, most bullpens stink, and I can tell you why. The reason is because they pitch every day 3 or 4 innings, and they get worn out. And, basically that's true. How often does a starter go past the 6th inning?
Perfect example last night in the Met game again, John, that, Clay Holmes in his conversion to starting is a 5-inning guy, and the Mets had to get 4 innings out of their bullpen, and they got 4 scoreless innings, which was a great job by them. But, this is all playing into their workload issues in the pen, which is why, they need to make another addition in my mind. And, look at the top of the market for that. They really do need to get a David Bednar, or, if such a pitcher as Yohan Duran of the Twins is indeed available, I think the Mets ought to ought to make it happen with one of those kind of guys to tuck in right under Diaz.
Well, I'd agree with you, except you're going to find a lot of teams in baseball looking for bullpen, and with 7 teams making the playoffs in each league, there are a lot of teams that, aren't doing great, but they think they've got a chance. They're 3, 4, 5 games out. So for the guys like Bednar or Duhon or people like that, there's going to be a lot of competition, which means you're going to have to give up a lot.
Yes, and it's going to be top of the market competition because the Phillies are looking for bullpen help. Their bullpen is in dire straits. And
always.
Yeah.
One thing about
towering.
that, I think Dave Dombrowski is as good as any executive in baseball. And since he's been with the Phillies, every year he tries and brings in new people, and I can't say none of them ever work, but very few of them work.
Well, I thought they made a nice move when they went and got David Robertson, who only cost money. I was surprised that I know he did well for himself, Robertson. He always does, and I understand that he's 40 and that he needs maybe 2 weeks to get into major league game shape. But I thought that was something that one of the New York teams should have pounced on if it was available to them, and I don't know yes or no whether it was. I know he's been in Philly in the past, as he's been on the Yankees and Mets in the past, Robertson. But I thought that was you can hug your prospects and you can help your bullpen at the same time, and that was a no-brainer move to me.
Boy, I agree with you, but I'm a great David Robertson fan. He has an idea of what he's doing. He doesn't throw hard anymore. In fact, a couple of years ago, he joked that these different pitchers all throw so hard, and their changeup is 92. And Robertson said, "That's my fastball." So, tell me about the thing that's really struck baseball. I guess other sports too, but that's injuries. Any idea what they do to stop all the injuries, especially the pitchers?
Yeah, it's amazing that they haven't figured it out yet, John, because there's so many resources devoted to figuring out why these guys get hurt. There are so many restrictions in place for pitchers now, based on their workload, whether it's pitches, innings. One of the new terms is up downs, for relievers. If they come in, they get out of the 7th inning and go back to start the 8th inning, or how many times did they warm up? They're watching every little thing, and they're taking every measurable they can off of pitchers' bodies, and they still break all the time. And it is part of the problem. It's part of the challenges of managing and front officing baseball. You've got to weather these storms with pitchers especially, and the good ones who post are so good and so valuable that then you have to give them a king's ransom to come play for your team. So there's all these things swirling around, but I'm not sure that anybody's closer to any answers.
How about this? I don't say this is right, and even if it is, I wouldn't know it. But how about all these pitches trying to throw 100 miles an hour? You think that's any?
Yeah.
Does it have any part of this?
Yes, constant max effort. It's got to. Because look, when you hear the older pitchers, and look, I realize that when we get to a certain age, John, we all look back at the good old days and we think about them in a certain way and, that kind of thing. But when you talk to pitchers who were accomplished, guys who had high workloads during their time in the game, a lot of them said that, they were not throwing 95 all through the game. And now, when everything is measured, when all of they can pinpoint the spin rate on your breaking ball, the planes that they move through, whether you are retaining your velocity or not, all these things that are added up, and so the pitchers are then feel compelled. That inning, the 3rd inning, you weren't throwing as hard, So are you hurt? Well, I better prove that I'm not hurt because I don't feel bad. I've got to throw hard again. So it's max effort all the time, and I think you might be onto something. I don't know whether it's true or not, but intuitively you have to believe that going as hard as you can for as long as you can, 99, 99, 99 every time, that's got to have a ripple effect.
Oh, I would think so. And, of course, I know older pitchers. I agree with you about the old days, But you know the same people I know, Tommy John and Bert Blyleven and Jim Cott. And Jim Cott Tom Seaver, they firmly believe that pitchers don't throw enough. And here they're holding them to an X amount of pitches and getting them out after 5 innings. Now, that's not going to change. Just because, I don't like it, that doesn't mean it's not going to change. But they do have a problem in having the bullpen. The Yankee bullpen is shot, really is shot. They're on fumes. And, of course, they have to pitch 3 or 4 innings every game. And this is baseball where you play every single day.
Right. And the easiest way for the people in the front office to keep their jobs is to have a throwing program and a protection system in place for your pitchers, because then you can say to the owner of the team, well, we tried to protect them. They just got hurt. If you're saying, well, we're going to have everybody throw 125 pitches per start because we want them to throw more, and then they get hurt, then you face, I would imagine that you would face blame from the guy who's writing the checks, and that's not going to work for your long-term employability.
Well, I hate to go to, quote unquote, the old days, but we lived through it. I'll give you 2 examples. Sandy Koufax pitched a 2-0 shutout against Minnesota in the 7th game of the 65 World Series. He pitched on 2 days rest. He couldn't start. Remember that, Anthony? Because of Yom Kippur, and so he took that day off. In fact, there's a great line. Don Drysdale started Game 1 against Minnesota, and he was knocked out. He was getting beaten up. And Walter Alston comes out to the mound, and Drysdale says, I bet you wish I was Jewish. So, anyway, that's what Koufax did. And, just a couple of years later, Mickey Lolich did the same thing. It was a 2-0 shutout in St. Louis. Sandy, pitching in Minnesota on 2 days rest, pitched a complete game, giving up 2 hits. Now, I wonder, Anthony, if Koufax, it's ridiculous to think that, and Lolich would be taken out after the 6th inning or the 7th inning. It's
a great question, but can you imagine Sandy Koufax's line in games like that? 5 scoreless innings, no hits, 14 strikeouts, and no walks, and that 1 ball put in play, and then but he would have hit his pitch count, and out he comes.
Yeah, it's changed. It's changed. I think right now the Mets doing okay, and the Yankees are not, but you're always okay. So, Anthony, we have to do some spots. So I thank you for coming on.
Always a pleasure, John.
And I will tell you this, sir, you're going to be coming on again. What do you think of that?
I love it. I'm available anytime.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. And we'll take care of some business, and then we'll get back. I have a great guest coming up, and we will get back after this on 77 WABC.
The John Sterling Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.